The Russian regime must stop playing games and provide realistic proposals for a ceasefire in Ukraine. The Kremlin's response will determine Washington's future course, either continuation of peace talks between Ukraine and Russia or the introduction of sanctions against the Russian regime that will turn Russia into a trading island. This was stated by U.S. Senator from the Republican Party Lindsey Graham in a column for the American publication The Wall Street Journal. Graham emphasized that the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan has undermined the reputation of the United States and provoked a number of wars around the world, but Washington can restore its reputation by maintaining leadership in the negotiations. Mr. Trump can restore our reputation and end the bloodshed, but peace requires partners willing to achieve it. While Ukraine has made it clear that it is ready for such an end, Russia is making too many excuses, he wrote. Graham recalled that he worked on a bill on draconian sanctions against Russia, which already has the support of 82 out of 100 senators. This is enough to pass the document and overcome the president's veto if necessary. U.S. President Donald Trump is waiting for a document from Russian ruler Vladimir Putin with proposals for a ceasefire. If it does not come, Russia will face the consequences. The bill would put Russia on a trading island by imposing 500% tariffs on any country that buys Moscow's energy. The consequences of Russia's barbaric invasion should become a reality for those who support it. If China or India stop buying cheap oil, Putin's war machine will grind to a halt. As Senator Thune said last week, if Putin keeps playing games, the Senate will take action. I hope for the best, but when it comes to the thug in Moscow, we should all brace ourselves for more. He concluded. The senator himself hopes for the best, but at the same time prepares for the worst-case scenario. When it comes to the mobster in Moscow, we all have to prepare for him to continue in the same vein. The Republican said, the Graham-Blumenthal bill is known as the Russia Sanctions Act of 2025.
The Atesh partisan movement reports that its agents conducted reconnaissance in temporarily occupied Sevastopol, Crimea. According to the report, the movement's agents have scouted an active air defense base. It is noted that the occupiers are actively preparing and reinforcing security measures, such as moving mobile fire groups, inspecting equipment, and delivering ammunition. These activities suggest that the occupiers are preparing for strikes on military facilities in Crimea, something they clearly fear in light of recent massive Ukrainian UAV attacks on Russian territory. Ukrainian partisans provided the coordinates of the military unit. In addition, our agents updated information about this military facility and passed it to representatives of the defense forces of Ukraine. We will not disclose details yet, let it be an unpleasant surprise for Russians, the statement reads. The partisans said they updated Ukraine's military with fresh intelligence on Russian operations, including key activity at a sensitive military site. They declined to reveal full details, hinting at a future, unpleasant surprise for Russian forces. Recall, on May 16, explosions rocked several areas across occupied Crimea. Atesh reported that strikes hit near the settlement of Perivaln in southern Crimea. The targets included the base of the 126th Separate Guards Coastal Defense Brigade and the 8th Separate Artillery Regiment, both part of Russia's military unit 12676. Atesh claimed there were Russian soldiers killed in the strike, saying, there is information about dead soldiers who were on duty at the warehouse. The Atesh partisan movement is permanently engaged in reconnaissance in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, as well as in Russia. Thanks to these actions, the defense forces of Ukraine receive reliable information on the activities of the Russian occupiers. Members of the Atesh movement are doing everything they can to help return temporarily occupied Crimea to Ukrainian control as soon as possible.
War continues in Russia's Kursk Oblast, and the Kremlin is losing control even on the information front, says military expert Valery Ryabik. Espresso reports. On the 22nd of May, Russian President Vladimir Putin publicly announced plans to create a sanitary zone in Sumy and Kharkiv oblasts to protect Kursk and Belgorod oblasts from Ukrainian attacks. However, analysts note that Russian forces are unlikely to achieve the seizure of major cities like Sumy in the near term. Fighting in the Kursk direction remains intense. Russian forces are pushing hard but have been unable to dislodge Ukrainian defenders. The expert continues. The Kremlin is trying to boost the morale of its population through propaganda, but it's not very effective, as some residents of Kursk Oblast have already fled, Ryabik notes. According to the official data from Ukraine's general staff, Russian troops have shifted from large-scale offensive operations to massive artillery and airstrikes in the past 24 hours alone. 17 airstrikes and around 200 artillery attacks were recorded, Euromaidan Press reports. Ukrainian forces have established a so-called sanitary zone extending 10 to 15 kilometers deep into Russian territory in Kursk Oblast. This prevents enemy threats in the Sumy direction and complicates their logistics operations. Ryabik also reports that Russian forces are amassing forces for potential active operations in Sumy and Kharkiv oblasts, using Kursk as a staging area. However, for now, Ukraine's armed forces are successfully keeping the situation under control. Fighting in the Kursk direction remains among the fiercest, and the information front has become one of the most crucial battlegrounds for both sides in this war. Recall Vladimir Putin has visited Kursk for the first time since claiming to have completely retaken the Russian region from Ukrainian forces. Putin again refused to commit to a 30-day ceasefire proposed by Washington and Kiev during his call with Trump earlier this week. He said the Kremlin was ready to work with Ukraine on a possible ceasefire for a certain period of time, but neither Putin nor Trump discussed a time frame for a possible truce, said Kremlin presidential aide Yuri Ushakov. Following the call, the European Union announced new sanctions against nearly 200 vessels in Russia's so-called shadow fleet of tankers it says transport Russian oil for export to avoid Western sanctions.